heroes and Pasadena's anywhere and everywhere. It is I, your friendly neighborhood Rabbi John Carrier, coming to you live with RabbiChat from PJTC, and I'm excited to learn with you today about the Jewish holiday that's happening today, that is Tisha B'Av, or the ninth of the month of Av, very creatively named, I'm sure, and also just answer your questions about this holiday and ask you the question, what it is that you are in mourning for at this time, what are you hopeful for, and how do you not let your mourning and your hope interfere with one another? We'll talk about that and more right after this brief musical interlude. Stick around. Nice to see all of you. Welcome to my new Zoom background, and I'm very glad to be with you all. Zoom, we're not on Zoom. We're on Twitch. We are on Facebook Live. We are on YouTube Live, and delighted to join all of you for this Ask Me Anything session. I see D. Willexen is in the house, says Shalom Lukulam. That means peace to everybody, as is Natalie Sirota, says Shalom y'all, speaking my language already as a Jew from Texas. So Shalom right back at y'all. So thank you for joining us. Trig Bell says Shalom. Nice to see you, Trig. Great to see everybody here. I don't know if this background's working for me, but I like it so much. So I like the home that I'm in. Just wanted to say hello to everybody. Tammy Lynn is here, as is Britton S. Hello, Britton. Nice to see you all. We're going to talk in just a minute about the Jewish holiday of Tisha B'Av. Can everybody hear me okay? Got the music down way low. Maybe I'll turn the music up a little bit, just for a little atmosphere, see? And we don't need any characters. We're not giving the place atmosphere. Name that movie, everybody. So delighted to join you from my studio here. Got a little bit of a different setup. Got some books back there. Starting to look like a place where a rabbi would hang out, other than my dining room with the ever-decreasing wall hangings and furniture. We are all moved into our new digs, and not a moment too soon. It's been very comfortable for us, and I even got a swanky new chair. I'm not on my old chair, which I believe was from the Jockmock collection of IKEA, that thing where you can get a table and 4 chairs for your very first apartment. We got 2 of those along the way, and those chairs have served us well, including a chew toy for our new dog. So they're on their way to the splinter heap. So I got this fancy dancy gamer chair. You can see it looks like an office chair, but it's got like racing stripes on it. So really delighted to join all of you and answer whatever questions you have about Tisha B'Av or anything Jewish, really. But today we're going to focus on Tisha B'Av, but you can ask me anything at any time, and I'll be delighted to learn that with you. So Trig Bell says, love the Tisha B'Av from last night. It was beautiful. I'm really grateful for that. We had a wonderful gathering. It was several synagogues. I didn't count all the synagogues, but there were like 8 rabbis. So, and I think so. Some synagogues have multiple rabbis. So there was like at least, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 synagogues there last night. 8 rabbis, few cantors, and we got together to honor the holiday of Tisha B'Av, or the ninth of Av, and I'll talk more about what that is in a minute. But Rabbi Jonathan Jaffe Bernard and Rabbi Josh Hoffman from Adat Ariel in Valley Village and Valley Beth Shalom from Encino, respectively, reached out to me and said, hey, would Pasadena like to be involved in this joint program? Tisha B'Av is one of those holidays where I'm going to say there's no, it's a mournful holiday. It's a holiday that commemorates the destruction, on the very top level, the destruction of both of the holy temples in Jerusalem. The first temple that Solomon built, the second temple that was built by Ezra and Nehemiah and their followers. Legend has it that both of these temples were destroyed on the 9th day of the month of Av. Che coincidenza, as my Italian friends say. And also, coincidentally, there were several other terrible things in Jewish history from the time of the Crusades, from the time of the Shoah or the Holocaust, all of which legend would have it occurred on the ninth of Av. Ask me a little bit later whether they all actually happened on the ninth of Av, and this is just a ridiculous coincidence, or maybe something else happened. So, being a mournful holiday, it's not a big draw as so some of the more fun holidays like Purim. You don't get to dress up, you don't get to eat special triangular cookies, and it's also usually in the middle of the summer, like late July, early August. It's hot out, people are on vacation. It's also not fun. There's no special food for Tisha B'Av because it is a fast day. It is the only other day on our holy calendar besides Yom Kippur where it is a full day fast. That is sundown one day to sundown the next day. The only other time, we have several fast days throughout the year, but only Yom Kippur and Tisha B'Av have that intensive 25-ish hour, 24 to 25 hours of no eating or drinking or doing all sorts of other fun stuff. So that's what's going on here. Micaiah Hadashah, interesting. Hey, Jew boy, nice to see you. Got a few people in the house. I'm just going to go get my hammer ready just in case. Carla J says, hello, Evie. Hello, everyone. Trig Bell, is it okay to visit gravesites? It's a day of mourning. In fact, one of the things where it's considered such a mournful holiday. They're basically like, no fun stuff, no fun stuff at all, and including, the rabbi said, okay, can't eat, can't drink, no concerts, no games, no sporting events. Let's see, what else? Oh, what's the thing that the rabbis think is most fun out of anything in the whole world? Studying Torah. So it's such a mournful day that you're not even allowed to study Torah. And they're like, wait a minute, we're rabbis. How will we get through life without studying Torah? And they said, okay, you could read one book, and that's it. Read one book and of the Tanakh, and that is Lamentations. That is Echa. That is the saddest book in the whole Torah. So you are allowed to read the saddest book in the whole Torah, and we do. So it's a super sad day. And some congregations have trouble making a minyan for this, so it's not uncommon for synagogues, in an area where there are a lot of synagogues, for synagogues to team up. And so, I always have, it is a holy occasion. It is a solemn moment. And there is a special tune. There's a special mournful tune to Echa that I appreciate and always puts me, I think, in the proper frame of mind. So I don't know if I want to say I look forward to this holiday because it's so sad. But it is always a spiritual and honorable experience. And I always have low expectations for turnout, right? Because it is a day where, like I said, it's summer, it's sad, it's fasting. It's usually late at night where we start after dark because it starts at night in the summertime. And there were like 100 people there. And I suspect that there were only 100 people there because we hit like the Zoom limit, because nobody expected 100 people to be there. But with all the different congregations coming together, at least 100 people tried to get in, and there were 100 people there at any given time, 8 rabbis teaching. And so we started with a little intention set by the rabbis hosting, and then we went into breakout rooms, and you kind of randomly got assigned rooms, and there was rabbis and cantors in each of those rooms doing some teaching. And then we got together for Mariv, or the evening prayer service, that was led by cantor. Well, it was jointly led by Cantor Ruth Berman Harris of PJTC, y'all. Very own Cantor Ruth Berman Harris gave a beautiful start to Mariv, and it was concluded by Rabbi Jason Van Leeuwen of Temple B'nai Chaim in the San Fernando Valley. And so we had multiple rabbis teaching. We had two different cantor, two different song leaders, cantor and a rabbi leading a beautiful Mariv service. And then we had people from different congregations taking turns reading Echa, or the Book of Lamentations. And that's what, let's say, a Tisha B'Av typical evening program goes like. So that's a little bit of education there for people who, for whom this is a new thing. And then there are there are sort of the regular prayer services throughout the day that take on an additional solemn tone. We have what are called kinot, which are liturgical poems or prayers that are sung in a particular mournful holiday tune. And I mentioned before that in Tisha B'Av, we observe that all of these different crazy things, all of these different horrible things happened on this particular day. And is it possible that that's true, right? Is it just one horrible coincidence that the first and second temple were destroyed on the same day, and all of the other horrible things that happened? And I want to pass along a teaching. This isn't my innovation, but it's how I frame it every year. It was given to me by Rabbi Ed Feinstein, of the senior rabbi at Valley Beth Shalom, who taught once that it's actually highly unlikely that all of these things happened on the same day. However, if we, given 4,000 years of history, and that history for an enduring people being rockier than most, let's say, if we took every horrible thing that ever happened to us and commemorated it on the day, on the anniversary day of when it happened, we would literally never stop crying. We would literally never be able to stop mourning. We would have to take a break for Shabbat and take a break for the biblical holidays and the historical holidays of Hanukkah and Yom HaShoah and Yom HaZikaron and Yom HaTzmaut. All the holidays would be like a brief respite from basically yahrzeits for things that happened throughout Jewish history. Every other day that wasn't a holiday would be like a funeral. And so the genius of the sages of our tradition, the genius of the rabbis, going back to the time of the Mishnah and the Talmud, was to say, let's take all of these days, and let's say that they happened on the 9th of Av, and we'll take that one day for an intensive period of mourning and fasting and avoiding things that give us pleasure, and put them all in that vessel so that we can get on with our lives. I mean, that's the thing about mourning. If you've lost somebody you were close to, you know that it doesn't have a predictable cycle to it. You can be pretty sure you'll be sad, right in the beginning when you lose somebody who's close to you. And that will come back in waves, in ways that you don't expect. When you smell certain smells, hear certain songs, things remind you of that person. But we still need to be able to compartmentalize some of that grief so that we can live, so that we can continue to have a joyous existence, which I believe God wants us to. So that, for me, is the essence of Tisha B'Av. It is the vessel in which to hold our historic grief. It is an annual check-in with that vessel so that we don't completely ignore it, we don't completely obviate it, because it'll bubble up in some other way if we don't make room for acknowledging those sad moments. And now that we have that, now that we've had Tisha B'Av, we have this other piece of our predictable annual cycle, is that the high holidays are coming up, right? And that, having had Tisha B'Av, that means in approximately, we have 3 weeks and then 4 weeks, we have about 7 weeks until the high holy days. I believe the high holy days start on Friday night, which is Rosh Hashanah, so 7 weeks plus a couple of days there, until Rosh Hashanah, until we mark the birth, and some would say the rebirth of the world. And so I have to say that in my intention this year, and I was thinking about this going into the high holidays, that these high holidays are going to have a big job to do for people. And I say this in the sense of design thinking. Like, what is a thing or an ideal or a day's purpose? What job does it have to do? And Rosh Hashanah has a couple of jobs to do this year. I do believe that there will have to be room for mourning, in the sense that there are things about the last 4.5 months, at least in the United States, where we've been when we really started to shut things down around mid-March. There are things that I miss very much. There are things that I am in mourning for. Not because I don't think they'll never come back, but because I don't know when they'll come back. I miss being in a room with people singing, right? I miss giving sermons in a room where other people are there so that I can know if the jokes land or not, right? I miss Kiddush. I miss literally breaking bread with other Jews and other Jew-curious people and people of all kinds. I miss that very much, and have spent the last 4.5 months in mourning for those moments, especially because I'm in a congregation that I'm somewhat new to and still am getting to know people. I miss that very much. I'm going to miss hearing Avinu Malkeinu, one of the greatest hits, hymns, if you will, of the High Holidays, being sung by 1,000 people in one room. Because there's no experience for me that compares to that. I'm going to miss standing with my wife in front of the Ark at Nila, where it became our tradition when I was at a different synagogue, and then I was looking forward to it maybe in the years to come, where at that very last few minutes, really, of Yom Kippur, we did this when I was in Burbank. I did it at other congregations before there, and it's a custom at Pasadena Jewish Temple and Center as well, that in Nila, where it's a tradition everywhere, that for Nila the Ark is open the entire time, and Nila is that final service, that additional Amidah, that fifth Amidah of the day, the only holiday that has 5 Amidahs, Yom Kippur. But you have the Ark open the entire time. Everybody who's been fasting for 25 hours is on their feet for, 20 to 40 minutes, depends on how long your cantor draws it out. But at Pasadena and at other places, they have the custom of inviting people either singly or in, nuclear family groups or extended family groups to come and stand right in front of the Ark to say a few blessings, to say a few prayers, whatever their personal prayers are, whatever blessings they want to give their children or their partner, right in front of the Torah scrolls. And there's just nothing that compares to this. And we can't do that because we are not going to be joining in any numbers whatsoever. I will be on the bima. Cantor Ruth will be on the bima. We'll have some members of our davening team musically lifting us up, but not more than about half a dozen people in that room where we usually have 1,000. And so I'm in mourning for those things. But what I feel like I have to do personally is put that mourning in the vessel of Tisha B'Av, so that we can focus on the other very important job that the High Holidays has to do, and that is allow us to renew our intentions, renew our expectations, renew our assumptions, so that we can live, and not just live, but grow as people in the coming year. That's what I really want this High Holidays to be about. And people have been asking me, Rabbi, is there a theme for the High Holidays? Or do you have all your sermon topics picked out this year? And the fact is, I do not. That's what the next 2 weeks are going to be for about me. In fact, I have a little housekeeping note for the end. I'll mention it now in case I forget. We're actually going to take a little bit break from this program for the next couple of weeks. So we're meeting today, the next 2 Thursdays. You can tune in, but I won't be here. Because I'm taking a bit of a, not a vacation certainly, but a sort of a sermon writing retreat, as it were. And this was something I talked to one of my partners at PJTC that this year I really need to spend some focused time because for no other reason is that the sermons will be pre-recorded and then debuted during the services in which they are attended for. And so I really need to get ahead of it. And so the next 2 weeks, I'm going to be doing a lot of reading, doing a lot of writing, doing a lot of thinking, probably some napping, because that's an important part of the process too, to develop sermons. So the next 2 weeks, no Ask Me Anything session. But then we'll be back with a vengeance. So it would try to say vengeance, but it's probably not the right. We'll be back in full force and then some. And I want to link this to another bit of wisdom from the rabbis. There's this custom that we have going back a long ways of special haftarot for this season, right? And so you may have noticed that if you've been attending services, virtually or in person or just mentally for the last few weeks, you may have noticed that our last 3 weeks, of haftarahs have been kind of a bummer, right? These have been haftarot. They're called the three haftarot of, and these are the prophets that we read from during Shabbat, rather than being a haftarah that's thematically or linguistically similar to the Torah portion. These have been picked as like the three haftarahs that are most finger wagging at the children of Israel as a kind of rebuke or admonition. And the prophets reminding us that if we stray from the path, if we forget our mission as a people, if we focus too heavily, in the sake of in terms of Isaiah from last week in Shabbat Chazon, if we focus too much on ritual and not enough on our ethics, if we focus too much on, are the priests well dressed, and are we lighting the right number of camels, lighting the right number of candles, sacrificing the right number of oxen back in the temple days, but we're not spending any time making sure everybody is fed and clothed and that workers are treated equitably. If we take our eye off the ball, then we're going to have problems. We're going to have destruction. We're going to have chaos. And then Tisha B'Av is a reminder of those moments of chaos that the rabbis would say came about because we forgot who we are and what we are for. Now, I don't know that I necessarily agree with that sentiment all the way through. Because there are many tragedies of our history that were caused by outside forces, like Nazis, like crusading Christians, like there were people who weren't us who made some decisions that ended in our destruction. The prophets say that we bear some responsibility for some of these things because we had perverted the cause of the temple. In fact, that's the essence of the Haftarah for Yom Kippur, is, God doesn't want you to fast just for your own hunger if you forget that there are some people who are hungry every day. That's the fast that God requires, is that it reminds us to build a more just world. And so we have these three haftarot of admonition or rebuke, and then after Tisha B'Av, after we put all of our sadness and all of our anger and all of our grief into this vessel, for the next 7 weeks, the 7 Shabbatot between Tisha B'Av and Rosh Hashanah, these are the haftarot of comfort, right? It says a couple of places in the Torah that if God sees people making mistakes or errors or bad judgments, God will punish that generation or 2 or 3 following it. But God forgives unto the 1,000th generation, right? And so we have 3 weeks of, but then we have 7 weeks of comfort and encouragement leading up to the high holidays. So my goal for the next 7 weeks is to set this mourning aside, put it in the box that the rabbis gave us, and that is Tisha B'Av, and then focus on building our hope. because we are going to need it. I say we. I'm going to need it, frankly, to get through or get into the coming year, and not just get through it, but grow through it. So I just want to say hello to some people who've joined us. I see Ruthie is in the house, says hello. Andrea Feiger Kelly says, I like your analogy that Tisha B'Av is like the vessel that holds the historic mourning of our people. I like it too. That's why I shared it. It wasn't mine. It was Rabbi Feinstein. Trig Bell says, can I do my Hebrew studies if it brings me sadness because it frustrates me? Lol. Yes, if Hebrew makes you sad, then by all means study your Hebrew. But if studying Torah gives you joy, stick to Echa, stick to Lamentations. Let's see who else has joined us. I see we got some jokers on Twitch I got rid of already. Carla's in the house. Dorian Alexander says shalom again. Nice to see you. Let's see. Trig reminds us, among the fun things that we can't do on Tisha B'Av, no bathing and no haircuts. And I know that might cut into your business, Trig, with the haircuts. I did see. I was thinking of you. I was driving down the street in Burbank the other day to get some medicine for my dog, who's fine. It was like the flea and heartworm treatment, like the never necessary stuff. And I passed by a barber shop that had moved its chair outside, and that chair looked heavy too. So, but those guys look strong. So Kay Dixie shares, we've lost our ability to have some sense of prediction regarding the future. That's the rub. That's one of the hard things about this time is it's not the certainty of destruction. It is the uncertainty of moving forward. It's the uncertainty of, when are we going to have a vaccine? When are the places that we love to shop, the places that we love to eat, the things that we like to do outside, the work that gives our lives meaning, when does that stuff reboot? When does it get moving forward again? And if we knew that it was all over, we could make plans. We could come up with alternatives, but we don't. And so that's part of the frustration, is just this lack of foreknowledge. And so we're challenged to kind of make the best of what we have. And as Kay says, we have to bravely face the unknown on a daily basis. So I agree with that 100%. So thank you all for doing a little bit of learning about Tisha B'Av with me. I'll hang out for a minute if anybody has any questions. Once again, we are going to take a little bit of a late summer hiatus from this program for the next 2 weeks. In 3 weeks, we will be back in style, and hopefully I will have written 5 pretty good sermons by then. I always am concerned when I write sermons well ahead of time. What if something happens that's sermon worthy between now and then, and I have to rewrite the whole thing? We'll see. But I'm hoping that my themes will be, let's say, evergreen enough that they won't be completely rocked. But if they're rocked, they're rocked, and that's what we got to do. So Trig Bell says, thank you. I missed your classes from the JCS, but took good notes from before. Thank you. So we'll take a little break, but that's going to be okay. There's some cool things going on at PJTC. I encourage you to follow us on Facebook, and I think we got a Twitter account as well, and Instagram. A lot of great stuff coming up in our Thursday night social hall events. Lots of great programs going on. I was just looking at some cool, Melton adult ed classes that are going to be happening starting right after the high holidays in October. I'm going to be teaching a 6-session course. Of course, it's all going to be on Zoom, so anybody with a Zoom connection can access those things. And, Natalie says, Toda Rabbi, we will miss you, however, enjoy some much-needed downtime. You say downtime. I'm going to do this. I hate bragging about stuff, so we won't call it that. But I just went to my office to grab some books. That's the zany thing about this time is I was waiting to get my job in Pasadena before I moved my personal library into my office. Because it was taking up, our home. So I moved most of my library into my office. You see some things that I brought back from my necessary work here. But then I decided, you know what? I'm going to be spending a couple of weeks writing high holiday sermons. I should really go get a couple of books the Alan Lew's "This Is Real and You Were Completely Unprepared," which is the best title of a book about the high holidays as a rabbi I've ever heard, and Shai Agnon's "The Days of Awe." I'm going to get a couple of books. It's going to be fun. And then I'm going to bring those home. So that's what I was doing right before the show. I went back to my office, all masked up, gloved up, so as not to expose anybody there. And I got these. Let's see. So this is a grocery bag full of books. And then I also got these, which is another grocery bag full of books. And for good measure, I got these. God bless you, IKEA, and these strong book bags that are great for carrying books. So let's just see. I've got Viktor Frankl's A Man's Search for Meaning. Let's see. I've got Levinas's Nine Talmudic Readings. John Rawls' A Theory of Justice. What else? Here's something I've been meaning to get to but haven't yet. Franz Rosenzweig's Star of Redemption. That's just a selection. What else did I get here? Steal the Show, a book about public speaking. It's about time, right? Herman Wouk's book, or Herman Wouk. I think his name was Wouk. He passed away this past year. This Is My God. This is, I recommend this to people often because this is one of the first Jewish books I've ever read. And this was about 22 years ago. My rabbi assigned this as homework because it is the ultimate, let's say, intellectual snob's guide to Judaism. Herman Wouk was a reputed novelist, screenwriter, and ran in some very intellectual literary circles, but was also a religious and serious Jew. And he would often have conversations with his Jewish friends who considered themselves more intellectuals than Jews, like those two things were mutually exclusive. And so Wouk wrote a book like here, it's sort of the guide to the perplexed for only if instead of perplexed, it's like the New Yorker crowd. So this I want to take a look at, see what he says about the high holidays. So that's just a random sampling. There's also the Torah in there somewhere. I really want to do a rereading of all the great Torah readings that we have for the high holy days. And just before I go, I want to let you know a couple of other things that are on the horizon for PJTC folks and fellow travelers. I let you know that we decided that we're going to do our services 100% online this year. And that was a big decision for our community, even though it seems to be the same decision everybody else is making. So we're not special, but it certainly was a real intensive conversation for us at PJTC. And because there are so many things that we're going to miss, we decided we are going to go above and beyond in everything else. The things that we can do, we are going to do turned up to 11. And one thing that we really are excited about is preparing for the high holidays, specifically for the month with the month of Elul. So this is something to keep an eye out for. We got about 3 weeks until Elul, and then that means, because I said 7 weeks, we got 3 weeks until Elul. Elul is that those 30 days leading up to the high holidays, and we are preparing two things that I'm really super excited about. One is a conversation series that it's going to be run by PJTC. We're going to be, I guess, teaming people up in small groups for discussions, for some very intensive and introspective discussions. How are we going to show up? Like some of the topics are things like, how are we going to show up in the coming year? Who are we going to stand up for, right? What principles are we going to stand up for in the coming year? How are we going to stand up for ourselves in the coming year? This is sort of goes to the teaching of Rabbi Hillel and Pirkei Avot. If I'm not for myself, who will be for me? So how are we going to show up for ourselves in the coming year? If I'm only for myself, what am I? So who else are we going to stand up for? And what principles are we going to stand up for? And finally, that Mishnah concludes, if not now, when? And so there'll be a compelling discussion on if not now, when? What's standing in my way? What are some roadblocks that I need to overcome to show up in these ways in the coming year? So that's going to be a fascinating discussion led not by me, but by some people who are real skilled facilitators, and lay leaders and volunteers at PJTC, leading those for anybody who wants to participate. That's one thing. So that's going to be kind of a weekly thing. But here's what I'm super excited about, and this is the last thing I'll bore you with today. A wonderful volunteer and I have been working on some sort of daily Elul inspiration. The ideal, if we can make it work, is an app. So you heard it here first. PJTC is working on an app, and I hesitate because apps are harder than they look, which is something I found out. We're hoping to develop an app that will notify you daily of just an intention, a thought of the day, something related to the theme of the high holidays, so that over the course of 30 days, you can use Elul as an opportunity to grow, to prepare for the high holy days. And so some way of getting you those intentions on a daily basis. In the past couple of years before I came on as Rabbi at PJTC, I did kind of a 30-day video challenge where, and those videos still live on YouTube if you want to go learn about the high holy days. I've done multiple series of videos, 30 days to learn all about the high holy days on my YouTube channel. Check that out. I won't be running the same challenge this year where if you sign up for those, you go to a drawing where I have some books for you. That was fun for 2 years. Right now I need to really do a different kind of thing because it's a different kind of year. So this year we're focusing on a 30-day Elul challenge. I don't know, I don't want to make it competitive. But we're working on some way to send out 30 inspirational messages every day of Elul, either through email or on a blog, or if we can make it work, an app. So stay tuned for that. If it works, it's going to work in the next 3 weeks. So I'm really excited to share that with you. Now that I've put it out in the universe, have to make it happen. So here we go. Kay Dixie said this could be a whole series. What is the Rabbi reading? Mostly ingredients, I'll say these days. So stay tuned. Ruthie's in the house, is up for this. Natalie's up for this. Trig is up for this. So stay tuned. I'll be working. That's one of the things I'll be working on in my my 2-week intensive sermon retreat, let's say. So Brittany Pearl McFadden is in the house. Is very excited. Me too. Thank you everybody for joining us from Twitch, from YouTube, from Facebook. Dog training books. Thank you very much. No, I have one dog training book. And his name is Aran. So I try not to, when I read dog training books, I sort of stumble over myself. I'll tell you, we had some very good luck with a guy. If you want the all-time best dog trainer, if you live in the San Fernando Valley area, and especially if you have a German Shepherd, because he focuses on German Shepherds, but not exclusively. Other dogs are fine too. Hit me. I'm not gonna use PJTC for advertising, but if you need a dog trainer, hit me up because he gave me advice that was contrary to every book that I read, and it's worked a charm. And she's sleeping through the night. She's not destroying stuff. Last night was a bit of an exception because we had an earthquake at 4:30, so she was up for that. I slept through it. Like I didn't feel the earthquake at all, but she was barking at the other dogs who were barking in the neighborhood and, kind of nipping me to wake me up. Why is the earth shaking? So that's Callie for you. She's my new earthquake alarm, apparently. So listen, everybody, thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for hanging out with me, learning about Tisha B'Av. I'll just sort of end with a question. What is it that you are in mourning for? What is it that you are hopeful for in the coming year? And how do you put the mourning and the hope in their proper places so that you can mourn the way you need to, but then turn around and focus on your hope? And really excited in about 3 weeks to check in with you about that. And until then, heroes and Pasadenans, wherever you're coming from, peace.